to make a strength-based build, and you want to use either Lion's Claw or Savage Lion's Claw, which are some of the, if not the best skills that you can use on a strength-based weapon. It also looks amazing. So which one of them is better? I would like to stress out first and foremost that both of them are very, very powerful. It's just that one of them is clearly better than the other. Well, not necessarily clearly. Let's remember the Savage Lion's Claw has been buffed right now in the latest patch on Elden Ring for Shadow of the Tree. So that being said, even after the patch, we'll discuss which one is better or not. So first, let's talk about the raw numbers that you're ideally going to have with each of the skills. Base damage on itself. Ideally, it's going to range properly built and properly buffed on a Colossal Sword, as you are seeing right now on the screen. The damage the range of the damage is going to be in between 4 to 6k damage for the regular Lion's Claw. Remember, once again, now that you have a properly buffed character, but it's still ranging in the same builds. However, on the other hand, the damage that you're going to have with a Savage Lion's Claw, properly buffed, is going to range instead between 6 to 8k damage. So ideally, in paper, the damage is better on Savage Lion's Claw. And yeah, that's for sure, but we'll talk about that in a little while. Now let's talk about the raw numbers into the stance or posture damage, which is also a very good thing to have in mind when you're going to build a build, and especially when you have a build that's so reliant on staggering the bosses like this one, because you can stagger the bosses thanks to this kind of builds like 2 or even 3 times in each fight. So on the right, you have the Savage Lion's Claw numbers. On the left, you have the Lion's Claw regular numbers. And remember that we are using a baseline that usually most of the bosses have 100 points into stance damage for you to be able to break that stance and cause a stagger. And usually it's going to take like 2 complete hits complete of the animation for the Savage Lion's Claw to stagger bosses. That is, of course, if you are using a colossal weapon and taking advantage of that 63.75. It's the same thing as well with the Colossal Sword, which has 51 stance damage. On the other hand, for the Lion's Claw, we're always going to have the same value. It's always, more often than not, going to require at least that you connect the animation with the boss at the very least 3 times. That is regardless of if you're using a colossal weapon or for example, a colossal sword, because the value in sum for everything, it's always more often than not going to be like I mentioned, those 3 hits, opposite to the Savage Lion's Claw, which is going to be just in 2. Now that's the basics of everything. Like those are the numbers. Now let's talk about the actual thing on itself, because if we talk about purely about numbers, yes, you might say that Savage Lion's Claw, it's definitely by far better, because it has more damage, it has more stance damage, and so on and so forth. All of them can be very whiffy sometimes if you're spamming them against a very mobile enemies. Their range, it's amazing, it's tremendously amazing with the first animation for Vote of the Ashes of War. However, yes, by all means you can whiff the Lion's Claw, but the Savage Lion's Claw is going to be whiffed several times more, and those values diminish by quite a lot because of that. The damage is going to be divided in between the first animation and the second animation. The second animation can be cancelled, and you can wait for the first animation, and more often than not, that's what's going to happen, because when you're fighting, especially bosses on DLC that are very aggressive, not many of them are going to allow you to bypass the full animation. Some of them are going to trade hits with you, and yes, if you're trading, then might as well, but still, if it's a very mobile enemy, more often than not, you're only going to be connecting the first animation, because you're taking advantage of that window of opportunity that you have in front of you, and that's when you use the animation. More often than not, Lion's Claw is always going to connect. If you're spamming it, you can whiff it by all means, but if you're playing a little bit more cautiously, if you know your windows of opportunity, you know when you have to attack, you're always going to connect. On the opposite side, for example, if you're using Savage Lion's Claw and you're whiffing the second animation of the attack, that the buff, it was buffed precisely because of this issue, because this was the main issue that we have. They buff only the first damage of the animation and the stance damage by 25% of the first animation, so that you wouldn't have to rely that much on that weakness that the weapon has, because like I said, I am redundant, and I want to stress this out as much as humanly possible, that by the time that you start the second animation of the Savage Lion's Claw, more often than not, 70-80% of the time the enemy, the boss, is already going to be at a different place, because they are very mobile and they are very aggressive, and there's certain specific attacks, just certain specific attacks that allow you to complete the animation. On the opposite side, those same very specific certain attacks that leave the windows of opportunity to open for certain bosses that have certain AoE effects or certain AoE attacks that allow you to complete a next animation of the Ash of War are the same ones that are going to allow you to cast 2 single Lion's Claws. And 2 single Lion's Claws are always going to be better than a full cast of the animation of a complete Savage Lion's Claw. So there are just those certain specific situations where you can cast the full animation of the Savage Lion's Claw, and in those very specific certain situations you can cast a second Lion's Claw, which 2 Lion's Claw are always going to be better than a regular Savage Lion's Claw. That's why I think that by all means you should still be using Lion's Claw on itself, and by all means as well, it doesn't mean that Savage Lion's Claw is bad. It can still be used if you feel that you're enjoying it more, if you feel that you enjoy the animation. As you will be able to see all throughout the rendition of the gameplay, it's still a very, very effective Ash of War that deals tremendous amounts of damage. It's just that because of that reason, one of them is better than the other one. Anyways, if you like the content, like and never super appreciate it. And also, you today, you're gorgeous and beautiful person, you're in the just a beautiful, beautiful person. Subscribe to the channel, you're in the Discord. Have a beautiful day.